I'm going to call to order the Board of Selectmen regular meeting for Monday, November 14th at 7 p.m. And we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
And to the republic which stands
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And we're going to go for public speak. So we'll start with Kathy and Mike Palazzi, if you guys would like to.
Do you have anything, Tom?
No,
No, it seems that we're fine. Thank you.
Okay. Next, Emily Timmer.
Hi. My public comment is in reference to the comments Eric Anderson made in the September 12th, 2022 Board of Selectmen meeting. After Jeff McGuire references the assessor's report and the complaint I sent to the Board of Selectmen, Eric Anderson said, quote, "I have not seen any letters from her, but she has been pulling the town's chains for years. I sent an email to Eric Anderson asking him to explain what I've done to do this. I have not received a response yet. This is no surprise since he has never initiated a conversation with me and I have never initiated a conversation with him. There was one time I asked Carol Lee a question, which he answered, which was relayed to me. It is my opinion that Eric's opinion came from someone else. And since Jeff was talking about the assessor, could Eric's opinion have come from this assessor himself? I also would like to know when to expect an answer to my complaint."
Okay, thank you. I will get you an answer on that, Emily, after the meeting. That phone number is Dennis, Mike Beckwith.
No comment right now. Thank you.
Okay, Diane Grenier. Diane, we can't hear you. Might be something wrong with your connection. I'll skip over you and come back. There's a telephone number that ends, I think it's 3815.
Does
Do
this
you have
work?
me?
Do you
Yeah.
have me yet?
Now I got you, Diane. Go ahead.
Okay, here we go. I really don't have anything to add except just let you know that I'm delighted with the Dollar General at the end of my street. And thanks everybody or anybody and that had anything to do with getting that there. Thank you very much.
Okay. The telephone number that ends in 3815. Going once, going twice. Sold. Mark Brinker.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing from me, Jeff. I'm good. Thank you.
All right, thanks for joining us, Mark. All right, let's get started. First, before we get going, I apologize for not making last month's meeting. Adrian, thank you very much for running that meeting and getting it done in an hour and a half. That shows just how good you are. Anyway, I'll move on now to additions and deletions to the agenda. Anybody have anything to add?
I have a deletion. Can we please remove 4A? And we're going to talk about that next month.
Okay, we can do that.
Executive session for Eric's contract.
You want to add an executive session for Eric's contract?
Yep.
Okay,
I asked Eric, he said he wanted an executive, so
that's fine.
I don't care either way, but Eric, it's up to the employee.
Understood. No problem. I have no problem doing it. Anything else? Scott, do you have anything to add or delete?
no, I'm good. Thank you.
All right.
Real quick,
Do
do we have any town employees or anybody that's on this meeting for something specific? We can move them to the front.
No,
You do not. Okay.
unless the telephone number that I don't think that was a town employee.
Just make sure we didn't have Jay or Marina or anybody else. That's all. Thank you.
I would like to add under new business,
Recording in progress.
Oh, sorry about that. My bad. I just realized we're not recording.
that one hurt. Okay. I would like to add under new business, probably 9E, a quick discussion about, and Eric, I'm just not sure if you have it in the administrator's report, the movement of the A2 survey for the town property on School Road, and just a quick discussion about the property for the community center. Is it in your report?
It is not.
Okay, then I would like to add that as a quick discussion point. Under 9E. So those are the three things that we would like to add. Would someone like to make a motion? Or we all made individual motions. Someone like to second those? Scott, you didn't make anything. Second all those.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So we are going to move on to item 5 because 4B is been deleted. So 5 appointments to appoint Janice Machia to the IWWC. Eric, is there anything that we need to do related to that?
No, you just have to do the appointment. The Inland Wetlands Commission has asked to add her to their board. Their board is well short of a full board. So the assumption is she's going to be added this month, and we will probably add another member named Brad Kelly at the next meeting, but their board hasn't officially met and recommended that yet.
Okay, so I make a motion that we appoint Janice Machia. I'm gonna, how do I say it? Machia?
Mashi, maybe?
And Janice, I greatly apologize since now.
I'll second that, Jeff.
Now this is recording. I feel bad about that. All right, so it's seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, 4-0. Okay, this next one, resignation of Diane Choquette from the Board of Finance. I recommend that we don't take it.
I'll second that.
Not an option.
No, we can't do it. I'm only kidding. I mean, Diane, listen, I'm just flat out. Diane is one of the best people I've met working on the town in a while in a volunteer position. So that saddened me to see that on the agenda. Did she send a resignation letter?
Yes, she did.
Yeah, to Carol.
Is it in our packet? I didn't see that.
I don't think so. I did not put it in the packet.
We got CC'd by Carol, though.
Came from Carol.
It was in our email, Jeff.
Okay. All right. Somebody make a motion.
You don't actually have to make a motion for that. That's automatic. This is just advisory in this case. I mean, you can accept a resignation if you want, but technically you don't have to.
Okay. All right. Well, then we don't have to do anything. And that's a really sad. That's sad. Okay. But we'll keep moving on because Adrian did it in an hour and a half. I'm going to try to do
Wow. Are you hung up on that tonight?
I was impressed when I got to it. I was wow.
I learned from you, Jeff.
That is absolutely not true. Well, maybe it was you didn't have to wrangle me in from talking, right? And so it went a lot faster. Eric, we're going to move on to the 7 town administrators report.
Okay, I put my report in your packet, so I'm just gonna cover a few things.
Can you share it? Can you share it, Eric, please?
You want me to share?
Please, yep.
Okay. I can do that.
I have some questions.
All righty. Oh, no, that's the one. Share. Okay, can you see it?
Yeah.
All right. So what do you have questions on? And then I'll go into my spiel.
Well, go ahead, spiel.
Okay, Bunker Hill Bridge design. So,
Whoa, you're not doing it in order?
well, I wasn't gonna cover everything. I mean, do you want me to read the whole thing out loud, or you want me to just hit the highlights, which is what I usually
Oh,
do?
I would think highlights would start with finance office. That's probably pretty important. Can you kind of do it in order so at least we can follow?
Okay,
Thank you.
so, I met with Cheryl Miller, last Monday. She and I sat down here for about 2 hours going over, stuff. The goal is still a complete transition to QuickBooks as of December 1st of this year. You know, she's working on the audit stuff. I need to get her some, you know, we've gotten her all the information she's requested at this point. And she's got most of the information she needs from the school, at least up to this point. And that's pretty much it, unless you have other questions for that.
What's going on with hiring? Are we still on hold with that, or are we gonna putting something out there?
So I actually revised the job description today because of one of the comments Cheryl made that she does not feel the position itself, it should be only the treasurer should be doing the reconciliation. So I took the mention of that out of the job description. It's ready to go. I was actually questioning whether we should post that tomorrow. The only question I have is whether we can do it in time and interview before I'm out for a couple of weeks. If that's not a concern for you, we can publish that tomorrow.
So my question is, are we looking for full-time at this point? And are we looking for a clerk, or are we looking for a treasurer?
We're not looking for a treasurer at this point. I think we need to get our act together before we hire the treasurer position. We're looking for the finance officer position.
Is that how we're labeling it?
So,
Because we've, if nothing else, we've learned from our interview process that labels matter.
okay,
Who
so
applies.
we officially titled the position Accounting Associate Job Description. If you want, I can share the job description and you can look at that. I have that up on my computer right now anyway.
Why don't you shoot an email and I'll look at it in the background while we're doing this.
Okay,
Thank you.
that is fine.
Eric, go down to the DPW highlights.
Okay,
Where was that anyways? Keep going.
I didn't have a whole lot on there for DPW because Jay submitted his own report. So I have not been,
It was about the trucks that he's working on?
I think I did put some information about the trucks. So basically we have gotten 5 and 7 both back. If you remember, 5 is the the 97 one. And 7 is the 2004 International, which we've had problems with all along. So both of those are back. We do, and then 7 is going out to Hartford Spring fairly shortly for some front end work also.
I just noticed that the price was a lot less than you guys said initially.
Yeah, so Jay has shopped it around a couple more times, you know, and we initially tried as a lower cost, because frankly, the amount of time it takes to tear that engine apart to get to the injectors was really high. So Jay found another contractor that seemed to think that he could, instead of just changing out the injectors, he could basically clean them and fix all the other peripheral stuff that was also wrong with that. And that would be enough to get by and it would run pretty well. And that's what happened. And that has now started. It's in fairly good running working order. It still needs the front end work, but the engine seems to be fixed at this point.
That's really good.
Yeah,
Kudos to
no,
Mike.
that's a good result. It's a lot less costly and a lot less time intensive than we had anticipated.
What is,
Okay,
I
I'm all
noticed
set.
I noticed your thing on bridges. How is the Times Farm Bridge not closed out yet?
Well,
How many years now?
I think the bridge was completed in 2017.
What's the holdup? What are we waiting on?
The state to finally close it out. As far as I know, they've gotten their final payment. They finally made a request for payment for their last iteration about 2 months ago. We paid them and now we're waiting for them to actually sign off on it.
Okay.
But the DOT is having the same problem all of the state departments have had, is that their turnover level has been, somewhere between 30 and 50% this year, depending on what state agency they're talking about, because they changed the retirement benefits and the cost of living increase for retirees, so that basically it worked out to anybody that was even possibly eligible for retirement took it. So there's been a giant drain of personnel from the state overall, and all their departments are struggling to fill.
Okay.
And DOT certainly none. That leads into the other thing is that we've been at the 30% design stage now for like 4 to 5 months, and they've been waiting for the DOT to review the proposed fee schedule from the bridge designers. They have finally reviewed it and decided it's actually close enough to what Close, Jensen and Miller proposed that they're going to allow it without, quote unquote, going to extensive review if the contractor will accept an intermediate value, which sounds kind of stupid, but that's going to save us an additional couple months of them,
Waiting. Okay.
wrangling back and forth.
Okay.
But that's typical of what's happening with the state right now, is that there's pretty enormous delays getting anything through. On the Long Hill Bridge design, we did get the design managed by state final acceptance letter. Jeff McGuire signed that on behalf of the town. And as of Friday, I think, or Thursday, we got it back signed from the state. And Close, Jensen and Miller has scheduled the survey for that bridge. So requested the state come out and survey it. So we're making progress. Things are going pretty slow with the state across the board right now.
That'll be
That
good
has-
that they survey down there.
Well, so they have to do a river survey and they have to survey all the contours, near the bridge, because they have to know where the new bridge design is going to fit relative to the floodway and the FEMA flood elevations.
Right, but there's no surveys for down there, so it'd be good if they finally know where everything is down there. As far as property lines, and
Yeah,
I
I
know they
mean,
surveyed the river about 2 years ago, the whole river, the flood plain and
right, but they
the
weren't.
banks.
Yeah, that was not an 8-2 for property lines or locations. That was just a river contour, an
Right.
elevation contour for the new FEMA flood maps.
Okay.
So that's moving along. It's going slow, but it is moving. As most of you know, the RFP is currently out for the proposed community/senior center. The RFPs should be back in 2 days from now, so certainly by the next meeting, there'll be stuff to look at. So the Board of Selectmen, per the purchasing policy, should designate a specific group to evaluate the RFPs. You know, it would probably be good for you to do that at this meeting since we're gonna have them in a couple of days. As far as the steep grants, as you know, there's 2 active steep grants right now. The 2020 steep grant, we've requested the refund from the Department of Transportation. I got an email saying that there shouldn't be any problem with it, but I don't know when they're gonna actually cut us a check. That refund check should be for $128,205 for the paving work that was done on Long Hill Road and Shoddy Mill. So on the 2022 steep grant, I did find out just recently that the DECD, Department of Economic and Community Development, will be the project manager or project holder for the steep grant for the new senior transportation building. I did meet with SHPO, the State Historical Preservation Office, and then subsequently I met at the museum with Paula King, Kathy DeRosiers, and Scott Yeomans to discuss what were the most pressing projects there, since we are going to have to mitigate, quote unquote, the effects of us removing a historic property, that we have to do a significant upgrade to an existing historical property. And since the only one we own is the Andover Museum, the intention is to do the work there. So the priorities that kind of came out of that meeting were, 1, doing the ceiling in the addition, because it's really badly peeling and it's probably lead paint. Number 2, replace all the exterior doors because a lot of the sills are rotted really badly. And a couple of them are very hard to even open, which makes that a bit of a safety hazard. And then the 3rd priority would be repaint the exterior windows. I still need to get some quotes from historical renovation businesses or businesses capable of doing the work, so we have a basic understanding of what those costs would be before we go back to SHPO with the proposal. So
Do
that's,
you have a dollar amount that you're trying to hit?
no, I don't actually.
And where's that money coming from?
It is gonna have to come from taxation in some form or another. Either the building maintenance fund, or we're going to have to put aside money for that. The good news is SHPO will give us at least 2 years to do the work. So if we can agree on it, we could budget it for next year.
Good.
But we have to understand what it's gonna cost first. And I don't want to tell SHPO what we're actually gonna consider doing until we know what our costs are and bring that back to you.
There's a guy in town that will do some of that work.
Okay, if you
I'll
got
let
contact
you-
information, let me know.
I will get it to you.
Okay. that would-
Just as a question, Eric, on SHPO. So SHPO is evaluating the old firehouse as historic property.
Right. So here's the basic problem. About 20-something years ago, the Board of Selectmen of the town of Andover requested that that area get designated as a historical district. And they listed all the historical properties and went through everything on it. And, you know, why they did that, I don't know, but they chose to do that. And the result of that is a historical district was created. And that building, that's the Andover Firehouse, because it was originally built in the 1800s, and it was historically a storefront, is it is a named building. In fact, there's a picture of it in the Andover Museum. circa around 1900 before the fire department acquired it. And because of that, the fact that we're tearing it down, we're required to do something to mitigate us tearing it down.
And they're not looking at it as to its current state and they're
Well-
requiring us to spend money. I mean, I'm okay spending money on that museum, but I don't like being dictated to have to spend the money for something that we're doing the public a service.
Right, and so the good news is, having looked at that building, there's no question that SHPO will go along with us demolishing the building. Which isn't a given. SHPO could also say, nope, that is a historically significant structure. It needs to be restored. We're not going to allow you to tear it down. And then we would really be screwed. We're not in that position. They have agreed that it's not got a lot of historical value at this point, but the state law regarding historical structures in historical districts says that if you tear one down, you have to mitigate. And so it's up to SHPO to determine what that mitigation means. I did walk SHPO through a bunch of the other things we've done, both the historical signage and leaving the old concrete sidewalk paths for the old train station and clearing that area by the depot and saying, look, these are all the things we've done to preserve the history of town. That should count for our significant upgrade. And they basically said, yeah, no. And so after that, that leaves us with going through the museum. So what I'm proposing is to do a series of projects that we really should be doing anyway. And it may be a combination of 1 and 2 of those priority items. And then going after SHPO funding to do some of the other things, because that's the other thing they said, is that whatever we do for mitigating the effect of damaging or removing a historic property, the town has to pay for themselves. However, they're willing to, if we want to do additional stuff, we can apply for SHPO funding for that and they'll try to expedite it. So it's both good and bad, I would say.
I'm all for, they've done a great job down there at that old town hall. And if we can put some money into that old town hall and make it look even better, that'd be great. I would ask one other question. Is 12 Center Street in the historic district?
It's in the historic district, but it was not, I do not believe it was identified as a historic property. But it's also not a municipality tearing it down. If a private entity chose to try to tear down 15 Center Street, SHPO would not be involved.
All right, anything else on your report?
I do have another little bit of good news. One, we had talked before a few times about the TRIP program, which is a program for doing pavement. And basically, it's a rural improvement program. They originally published a set of guidelines stating that they had to be minor collectors and above. And as most of you know, Andover does not have any town roads with that designation where we could have gotten anything. I did lobby pretty hard, both with Council of Small Towns and CROG initially to get them to put out a set of project guidelines that allowed local roads. They did not. And after they published the initial official guidelines, I went back and spoke to the program manager of the program, lobbied them directly, and showed them evidence for how many small towns were not eligible for their rural improvement program that the program was designed for. And based on the data I supplied, they reversed their decision So we are now eligible to submit a local road for that. So between now and February 10th, when it's due, I'm gonna have quite a bit of work to do to put together a grant application for this. Preliminarily, I think we're looking at a grant application for a reclaim and repave of Hendy, probably Hendy running straight into Skinner, and try to do that whole segment in one shot. So that's what I'm kind of leaning towards right now. I'll try to have better data for you at the December meeting and we can discuss. I only found out today that the program decision had been reversed because I'd kind of tabled any work on that since we weren't going to be eligible, but now we are. So I was quite happy about that. Secondly, I am planning on providing testimony to Council of Small Towns for the upcoming legislative agenda as well as CCM. The things I've been thinking about asking, which in my mind would put the most benefit to small rural towns, is basically see whether the state could reverse its decision to make the towns pay for 100% of the cost of a resident state trooper. I think going back to the old formula of the state being willing to fund 50% of the cost of a resident state trooper is probably a lot more, logical. And then the second thing is, I really want them to look at the formula for town aid road, because that really kind of screws municipal or rural areas. And then I'd also like to lobby to revise the funding requirements for the LOTSIP program. Because the LOTSIP program is based on a federal block grant program. And the federal block grant program allows spending on rural roads and rural parts of states, but the state program does not. So the legislature could reverse that if possible. And I think that would be a big advantage to us and the other more rural communities. So that's one of the things that's been kind of on my plate lately, is looking at how we get, those two agencies and maybe also engage our newly elected representatives in that fight. So that's pretty much what I have for my report, unless you have other questions for me.
That's excellent news on the TRIP program.
Now we got to actually apply for it. So, but at least we got it, at least we can apply, and that's huge.
Okay, any questions from any of the other members of the board?
No, I did find the two contractors that were window specialists for when we were looking at doing the library project. So I will hook you up with those two to at least try to reach out. Eric.
Perfect.
And you may want to look at most of the people that bid on that. It was a small project, so they, I think most of the people would probably look at what you're asking. So, but two of them were painting companies that specifically dealt with restoration work in the state of Connecticut. So,
to go on with Eric's report, Eric, you asked for us to appoint a group for the opening of the RFP on the senior center or the community center / senior center.
no, it's
Yeah.
not a group. It's not a group for the opening. It's a group for the review, so that we can pick 3 or 4 contractors out of our bids to come back and give us a breakdown.
Yeah.
So
So why would we appoint the committee?
And
Eric-
when is that going to be, Eric? What date?
we open them this Wednesday at 3:00. But I've talked to Eric about this. We talked to the town attorney. We're not going to make the bids themselves publicly available. We're going to make the companies that bid and their bottom line number available, which meets our requirements for disclosure. Because we're going to have companies come back in and break down their bids. We don't want to give anyone an undue advantage in that process. So we're simply going to give the bottom line number and the company at when we open on Wednesday. And then we'll bring guys back in to kind of give us a breakdown as to how they got to their numbers.
I have no problem with that. Can we sit there and appoint the committee to do the walkthrough and the review process, or is that already?
We have a couple of names. Eric, did you get a chance to talk to
I,
anybody?
I did not.
Okay.
It's been on my list, but I did not get to that today.
Okay.
So do we need to do that? You had asked that we do it. Do we need to appoint anyone for that?
We have the authority to do that, yes, and so we probably should do that. I had briefly talked to the person I suggested. I don't know, Eric, if he had Eric didn't get a chance to talk to his person. I did talk to Jeff Murray to see if he'd be a part of it because he's dealt with contractors through work a lot. I talked to Mr. Hamburger to see if he would be interested because he's good with technical things and breaking down things. A lot of this is more of a being able to evaluate the contractor and what they're putting on the table.
Well,
So,
aren't you on the committee?
yep. So
Scott,
so my-
Scott's on the committee?
yep.
Jeff Murray's on the committee? Who else?
Jeff is not.
Okay. So let's say the committee, Jeff Murray and Robert Hamburger.
Yeah, we don't want the whole committee though. We
Okay.
just need technical people, this isn't about picking drapes. This is about picking a contractor. So we really need technical people. That's Eric had suggested Lenco might be willing to do it for us. Lenco Electric.
So Paula, Adrian just in a backhanded way said, I'm not good for this.
How dare you?
I know.
No, you would not be a good choice. Sorry.
Drapes are my thing.
Yeah, when we get to drapes though, you're the guy we're calling. But given the fact that you don't have them in your office,
I get it. I get it.
I'm looking behind you thinking maybe not.
Maybe not. Maybe not anyway.
Right.
So if you have a list of people, put them out there. Let's go. Make the motion. Let's get this passed.
Well, pending their acceptance, Eric has suggested Lenco Electric. He's the owner. What is his last name? I'm sorry, Eric. I don't.
Rick Langley.
Langley. Okay, so Rick Langley. I had briefly spoken to Robert Hamburger, who tentatively said yes, depending upon schedule. Myself, Eric, Jeff Murray, and Scott Person, if he is available. It's going to be more than likely it's going to be a weekday thing, a weekday afternoon for the presentation. So.
Okay, so Rick Langley, Robert Hamburger, Eric Anderson, Scott Person, Jeff Murray, and Adrian Mandel.
Scott, are you freer now? Last time I talked to you, had a busy schedule.
It's going to be this Wednesday. This Wednesday, I definitely
No.
cannot do it.
No, so it's not going to be this Wednesday. We're opening bids this Wednesday.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna need to, get an initial list together, which Eric and myself can do. And then the 4 or 3 that we bring back in, we would like a small committee to review, but they'll need to be available for the presentations, which will more than likely happen during the day, in the afternoon. But it's not going to be on Wednesday. It'll be a week
After
from
Thanksgiving.
Wednesday, right?
All
After
right, so that following week, yes, I'm available that Wednesday.
I'm not sure that's going to be, I guess my point is,
Hey, you don't know. Listen, you don't
we
know.
don't know the day it's
don't
going to
know the
happen. We know it's
schedule.
going to be in an afternoon, right?
These
That's what I'm
people, these people we'd like to participate. If they participate, they participate. If
Okay.
they don't, they can come and hang drapes with me.
fine.
Right? Perfect.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd like to, as long as we have 4 or 5 people there, I'd be pretty
So,
happy.
so I'm going to make a motion that we appoint to the community center / senior center
Just put
RFP review
Contractor selection committee for the community.
contractor selection committee. Right? I would
Okay.
like to potentially appoint Rick Langley, Robert Hamburger, Eric Anderson, Scott Person, Jeff Murray, and Adrian Mandeville.
Yep.
Who wants to second it?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's move on. So Eric, was there anything else that we needed to do related to your report?
Not related to that, no.
Okay, so we are going to move on to. Gotta download that. Let's see here. Okay. We are going to move on to old business, discuss and act upon the following. There's nothing there. B, the finance department employment status of the finance official. Eric?
So I'm suggesting that we formally put the job application out for the assistant position tomorrow. But we have to decide what you want in terms of hours. Right now, what Diane Choquette had suggested was a full-time position. But that's up to the board. I know you're still discussing it, so.
What did Cheryl say?
Cheryl didn't really, I think she was clear it didn't need to be 40 hours. But she didn't give me a target number of hours she thought the position would take.
Can we just, I kind of want to shelve this because I'm worried about we're going into Christmas and Thanksgiving. You're going to be gone. You're going to be out for a little bit, and then the holidays. I think it's going to be really hard to get people excited and in for interviews. And I really want an answer from Cheryl as to what this looks like. I know Diane had an idea, but I really would like Cheryl's input on this.
I have no problem with that because I do not believe it's a full-time position. So
Okay.
I'm open to shelving it.
Are you okay? I guess the question is right now, Eric, are we treading water a little bit now? Are you okay with bills getting paid and whatnot right as we stand?
We're okay. The thing we're not posting right now is we're not posting revenue, but part of the reason we haven't been posting revenue is because we know we're switching to QuickBooks. So it doesn't necessarily make
Makes sense to
sense to
post
put
it
everything in Edmunds if we're about to discontinue use of Edmunds.
Okay.
So yeah, if you want to hold off till after Christmas, we can.
Well, I'd like to hold off until at least our December meeting and to make a decision as to what that.
Why don't we request that Cheryl give us her opinion before the next meeting
Yeah.
and we decide what to do.
Exactly.
Okay.
Do you want to just have Cheryl on the next Board of Selectmen meeting? She'd be more than happy to do it. Obviously,
love-
pay for it,
I love that you're volunteering her, but
Yeah.
let's leave that to her. If she feels like she can surmise it in an email to all of us, that'd be fine as well.
Okay, so 8C is the status of the community center RFP. We've already talked about that. 8D, the Hop River Homes update. Eric?
I don't have an update on that because frankly, we got a lot of contracts to go over and that was the least time sensitive contract that we had to deal with.
Okay, we got to get
Are-
that in before January 1st. Just telling you, you got to get it done before the spring starts. So January 1st.
Okay,
All right. 8E, recognizing Andover residents.
so
Great job on Marcy's letter.
We sent, so I sent out Marcy's letter. She sent back a nice thank you card. I think Eric sent it to everybody as scanned.
Eric did, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very nice. So last month, I know Jeff, you weren't here and I filled you in. We talked about the brick walkway. So what we left off last month was just to kind of think about what the criteria will be when people are nominating these individuals, and then how often we want to do it. So I don't know if anybody's given any more thought to that, or if we want to push this off to next month, but that's where we left off last month.
Well, let's actually push it off to next month, Paula. But what I think we should do, and Diane Grenier is on the phone, is we should get a list of potential residents that could be honored. and it can be a running list. And if, I don't think it's necessary that we do it every month or every other month or every quarter. It's, I think we should have a list of exceptional people in Andover. It shouldn't be hard to get them. We can put Adrian Mandeville on that list. He can start that list off.
Wow, you're on fire tonight.
Let's
Thank
go.
Well, yeah, so probably our homework for next month is think about how often we're gonna acquire this list, and then how we are deciding, or who's deciding on who's gonna get the recognition. That's how we left it, so.
Okay. Well, obviously it's the board's vote, and I would assume that we would have a list, and that Paula, you would be responsible for sitting there sending out this is the most valuable or most important nomination we've had recently, and we don't want to do this in public is the biggest issue. We want to award them in public. We don't want to do the discussing in public. Because then somebody like me that hangs trades would sit there and be all embarrassed, and I wouldn't get approved to be on the walk. So let's bring this up at the next meeting. We'll go from there. The cool program on 8E, 8F, excuse me. I saw the contracts in here, Eric. I know Dennis has been working on this. Do you have a contract? I know we had option 1 and option 2. Do you know the option you want to get to, or does Dennis know?
Okay, go ahead.
No, you go, Dennis. You can do a better job.
Well, I mean, option 1 is, I had heard that somehow on the street or whatever, that the board was concerned about the summer program because of the added expense of providing insurance and other items. And option 1 is simply an agreement. And, there have been several iterations of this agreement. But option 1 would be an agreement to simply provide the before and after school program, to agree with Cool for the before and after school program. And I've added in there some of the pertinent suggestions that were made by the representative from Kerma, so that it's been altered to that extent. And so if your feeling is that you would like to just limit the town's financial support involvement, whatever, to the before and after school program, as you certainly have many, many times in the past, this would be what I would recommend as the agreement for that particular program. The second option is simply includes both programs, and with lots and lots of input from the Kerma representative, which is incorporated into the draft.
I mean, I think, does anyone else have any any opinion on this? I personally would like to have the Cool program included. I think it's important to our residents. And the summer program has been growing every year. So,
I mean, the real question is just, is the town willing to help support it? This contract is written assuming that the town is not going to support it, other than to allow the usage of town buildings. And possibly, depending on what your decisions are, the continued use of a town vehicle to transport kids.
I thought option 2 allowed that, though.
Correct, it does.
So if we go to option 2, then we have more leeway.
But it doesn't provide for insurance paid for by the town. They would have to provide their own insurance.
So why can't that be included, Dennis? Then?
Yeah, I mean, given that
That's totally up to you.
well, the rec commission generally works in tandem with them. So the summer program is really about, both of those entities working together,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
So
the only issue is insurance.
Are they not covered under the, because the rec commission is running it? Aren't they covered under that?
So if the town decides to keep them on as an additional insured, they can run under the town's insurance. But 2 meetings ago, you as a board of selectmen had kind of said you were uncomfortable with that and had wanted them to be self-sufficient and provide their own liability. And based on that, we changed the contracts from what we had originally to that. And Kerma wants to take it a step forward and require them to have another series of sets of coverage, some of which are included in this agreement.
Have
I mean,
we-
Kerma's version
we
is
have-
probably the most, the safest. for the-
Most protective for the town. Have we asked Kerma what it would cost for that coverage? Like if we assisted to get them covered, would Kerma cover that? Because what Pool is saying is it's $3,500 extra.
Right?
Right.
But see, it's not, we're already providing that for them. So it is not an extra cost for the town, because the town's costs through Kerma are dependent on its risk and its number of claims. So our existing money that we're paying Kerma already covered that with us providing them as an additional insured. The question is just, are you willing to take the risk of a potential claim based for that or not? And I thought the answer was you weren't, therefore we were requiring them to be fully insured.
Okay, so let's
I
just.
must, did I don't remember that conversation, to be honest. Does
Let's-
anyone else?
Yes, I mean, I mentally have a problem, Adrian, when, Cool is its own entity.
Entity, exactly.
It's doing everything on its own, and it's now, from what I read, they're having to take 8 additional weeks of insurance, potentially costing Cool, the entity, $3,500, which means to me, they haven't been insured in the past for the summer program. Problematic to me.
Well, no, they were insured,
Under the
but they
town,
were insured because the town made a decision to be essentially a co-sponsor. And to allow them to sit under the town's, umbrella policy, because it was in the best interest of the town. That was a decision made by the Board of Selectmen either 2 or 3 years ago with the blessing of the Rec Commission to get the program going.
Right.
My understanding was that the board had wanted to no longer offer that and wanted them to be self-sufficient this year and was uncomfortable with that. Therefore, this contract.
Okay,
And I'm not trying to influence you either way. I mean, I think it's beneficial to the town to
Okay.
have a cool summer program.
Oh.
Can
can I just address one thing here, though? When we talk about having them have additional insurance on their own, it doesn't eliminate the liability for the town, because the reality is if there's an accident or a problem on town property, all they're gonna do is add the town to the lawsuit. They're gonna want to sue us because it's on our property and them because they ran it. So we're gonna get sued either way.
but you're mitigating your risk.
No, you're not, because you're actually increasing your likelihood to be sued, because you're look, the reality is 99% of these types of claims get solved before they get to a courtroom. Nobody wants to go to court. So the more money you have available, so if you have a $2 million policy, they're going for 2 million, right? So if you have two $2 million policies, they're more likely to hit you because they think they're jackpotting 4 million. So if they think they can sue Cool and sue the town, your likelihood of a suit goes up. But if you have one entity insuring both, in this case, the town, your likelihood of that type of suit goes down, and your exposure goes down because you're only getting hit on one side.
But if I remember my Kerma policy, we could be if I remember the Kerma policy correctly, and Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, Kerma sits there and has the ability to sit there and go after whatever our lawsuit claims are.
They do.
They
They
do.
do, but you're still gonna get on that. You're gonna end up on that lawsuit one way or the other. You know,
Okay, so just to hear me out, if
Sure.
we ask them to spend the $3,500 to get insured, and they now have the policy, and the town is an additional insured on their policy.
they're still gonna sue you as a separate entity.
Okay.
You know that's gonna happen. They're gonna go after both.
Isn't that what I have an attorney for? To make sure that I'm limiting my exposure?
I can just tell you from a commercial business point of view that you're gonna get hit on both. I've been down this road
Yeah.
with,
The general rule with plaintiffs' attorneys in cases like this is tackle everybody until you find the football.
there you
Just go
go.
after everybody. That's the old saying.
That's how
So
it
that's
works.
true, but we do have in here a whole harmless agreement with them that we've put into this agreement on Kerma's recommendation, and whether or not it holds up is another matter. As
Well,
far
yeah,
as
but
being
what's-
sued,
But they're a nonprofit, so all they're gonna do is go bankrupt, and then the town will still get stuck with the balance of the liability on a hold harmless. It doesn't protect us. If anything, it gives us more exposure.
well,
No.
it could, but it might not. You're right.
Dennis, what are you recommending?
Well, it depends on what you want to do. I mean, if you want to have the summer, if you really want to continue the summer program, and then I think everybody likes it.
We do, yeah.
I'd like it if I were
Yeah.
a resident, but at the time, we're getting recommendation from our insurer, which is what we wanted to do, that we don't do that, that we not do that. I mean, I'm not an expert on insurance. It's beyond my expertise, but it makes sense. We could go back to the original agreement. We originally had drafted an agreement covering both programs in one agreement, and we were providing secondary insurance on our policy for both programs. So we could go back, that would be easy. Of course, Kerma has also recommended. Go ahead.
I think that is the solution under the caveat that the rec commission stays a part of it. As long as the rec commission stays involved, I think that's the way to go.
What is their involvement? I mean, what level of involvement do they have?
I mean, they help with organizing, they help making sure they have staff. There's a little bit of back and forth, they help coordinate some of the town side stuff.
Under the guise of the rec commission, Dennis.
Yeah.
It's run under the whole summer thing is run under their program.
Right.
The
Okay,
summer,
I didn't realize the recommend that activist.
For the summer part, yes. For the regular school part, no.
Okay, yeah, not for the regular school part, of course. So they have manpower that they
No.
provide?
no.
But they get volunteers to come in.
Okay, that's
Dennis,
manpower.
we provide them transportation. We give them
Yep.
vehicles. That's what we do.
I know
And-
that. Yep.
And we give them kiddie pools and we help with other supplies.
Right.
Okay.
Well, if you really want to have a summer program,
And presumably, we are also covering them. Remember, when we do this, we are also covering them when they're using, because it was quote unquote a rec commission program as originally designed, that was just
Right.
essentially subcontracted to Cool.
Right.
We also covered them at Alpoa when they're on the lake.
Right.
And there's definitely quite a bit of liability to that too. I mean,
sure.
And I
So-
believe,
So we provide them access to the gymnasium. I mean, they didn't use the gym in the summer, did they? Paul?
yeah, when it's hot and or if the weather's poor, yes.
Okay, so they use the gym. They use the area outside the community center or community room.
correct,
And they used our vehicles.
correct.
And we bought them some supplies, kiddie pools, whatever.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and they use some equipment of the rec commission, like the bounce house, and
Right.
they operate under the umbrella of the town's insurance, both on town property while they're driving and at the lake.
Where are you
That was-
going with this, Jeff? Trying to see where you're going.
I'm not going
Yeah,
anywhere.
me too.
I'm trying to lay it out so everybody gets it.
Yeah, so everybody sees the same thing.
Okay. So if we go back to the original agreement, the rec commission is a co-sponsor of the summer program, or the rec commission is the sponsor of the summer program and Cool is managing it.
Yep.
Okay,
Just as a side
We
thing, who collects the money?
Cool program.
Cool.
cool program. Right.
Okay.
Can you give it where like Scott said, where are you going with this?
I'm just trying to lay it all out. Even in my head, I just want to know.
We know
You
that we
have
have a project, Adrian, that's what's going on here.
All right, so
We have
if you
what?
go
I'm
back-
sorry,
if you're gonna
Scott,
go
I
back to the original, if you're gonna go back to the original agreement, go back to the
I
original.
didn't
agreement.
understand what did Scott just say? I'm sorry, I didn't get all of it.
There, it's another project, Adrian.
Okay,
There's an issue here that has to be addressed.
So to sit there and for the benefit of the community, go back to the original contract then. If that's all laid out and we're providing insurance for the summer program, then we're providing insurance for the summer program. I would recommend that they get their CDL and get somebody to drive the bus.
That would be a good idea.
I'm taking notes here.
Okay, so your goal is to then go back to unwind 2 months and go to the original contract that Dennis proposed to you.
Maybe
And-
with some additions in
Okay,
terms of explanatory wording anyway.
okay.
Because I didn't realize the rec commission was so active in this.
And for the record, I think the rec commission had some concerns about the liability on the town's perspective too. So they were not unhappy when the board originally had wanted to start requiring Cool to maintain their own insurance.
well, all right, so if that's the case, why do we not have one of those people here? Rec commission or Cool, like, we're trying to make a decision on a project and a town usage, and we don't have either of those people here to kind of give us their take. I would like them, before we make any decision on this, I would like to hear from both of them.
Okay, so you want at the next meeting, or you want a separate meeting with the Cool Program Board of Directors and with.
I just need
the
I
Rec
want a
Commission?
representative from Cool and a representative from the Rec Commission. I don't need the whole board of directors. I just need one person that can speak for them. And
Okay,
one person for the Rec Commission.
all right, then Dennis, we're gonna put you on hold for a second until we get that.
Well, I'm used to that. That's good. Got to get it right.
All right,
All right.
And we're talking about next summer. So
Right.
But it's a lot, it's all these contracts.
If
need
we
to
can
come.
get, those people at our next meeting, we'll make a decision, so it's done. I just,
all right.
All right.
I don't want to make a decision that the Rec Commission, if they're actually wanting something and they're concerned, let's hear from them. You know,
Okay,
Right, what would be the best direction?
so to get information from the appropriate parties.
Right,
I
exactly.
hope.
Yeah.
You're okay with that, Scott, right?
Yeah, perfectly. Well,
Cool.
Sounds
Okay.
good to me.
I was gonna move on to 8G, the AES usage agreement with senior transportation. Eric?
so this was discussed again a while back by the Board of Selectmen. This would be a contract between the Board of Selectmen, for the use of a senior transportation vehicle to transport one student to and from the school in the mornings and in the evenings, assuming that they have a qualified licensed driver capable of doing that.
Are
And
they
it's just a
doing-
straight reimbursement to the town for the use of the vehicle.
Are they doing that now?
What?
Are they using the van for the child?
No, we're not, I'm not allowing them to use it until there's a contract in place. And there's no driver right now capable of doing it.
Okay, but
Are-
that means they contracted with an outside service.
They are currently contracted with DATCO in the afternoon. DATCO can't provide the services in the morning, so they're paying, as far as I understand, they are paying the parent of the person to basically go into work late and drive the child into school in the morning.
Okay,
The school is,
The
Paying.
school is.
Yeah.
Yes,
and where is this contract stand?
It stands before you. I mean, you've got to decide
co-
whether it's what you want to do or not.
28 cents a mile.
No, it's not.
$3.50 a mile.
350 a mile.
Yes,
Yes. Apparently you haven't done taxes in a while. Even the IRS pays more than 28 cents a mile.
It's not 350.
No, but somewhere in the middle.
No.
I remember a 28, I thought.
Yeah,
No,
no,
it's much higher than that.
that was
Was it
just-
280?
Not
Change.
350.
that was about 10 years ago.
The 280 then?
Yeah, $2, 28 cents a mile was like 10 years ago.
At least 10 years ago.
Yeah. I was trying to be nice. I don't know how old Scott is, so I don't want to age him.
Hey.
Thanks, Adrian.
I have no problem with the contract. It looked good to me.
Jeff
Wow.
McGuire already ages me all the time.
I would motion to accept the contract as submitted by Eric.
So the school is gonna pay us, what was the number, Eric? 350?
$3.50 a mile.
Comes out to $40 a day, give or take.
To use our vehicle.
Correct.
Okay.
But that also implies that we have to deal with any maintenance and any issues with the vehicle. It's just a straight mileage fee so, given, the wear and tear and the usage of the vehicle.
It comes out to $29.75 a day.
Is that what it is? I thought it was more mileage than that round trip.
8.5 according to the agreement.
But it will be twice a day, so you're off by a factor of 2.
Okay,
So I'm under and you're way under.
so it's $300 a week times 30 weeks, maybe a little more, about $9,000.
Yeah.
Okay,
Do we have a second on the floor?
what was that?
I motion to accept it. Paul is still trying to log in, by the way. Her internet's glitching.
I'll second that. Further discussion? Anybody? I mean, I don't have any problems with it if it benefits the child and benefits the school.
Right, and
I
then we're
just
getting
question-
paid, which is different.
Yeah, I just question
Good.
if, Eric, is it going to cost you? Well, do we have a backup vehicle if we have a problem?
We have a total of 3 vehicles. We should be okay. But I can't guarantee, that every instant, we're gonna be able to provide, every bit of senior transportation that we want. But in general, we should be okay. Because right now, we still only have 2 drivers. So we're running on 2 vehicles at the max right now anyway. So this is basically utilization of our 3rd vehicle.
Okay, so Dennis, the agreement holds us harmless. What happens if our town vehicle is involved in an accident? Just a question.
Then our insurance has to pony up.
So our insurance, our current insurance is the same insurance that the Board of Education is piggybacking on.
Right.
Right.
So hold harmless doesn't provide us a whole lot, since we're paying the whole cost of the insurance at the town level.
Right, and who's
Correct.
just, and who, they're verifying for the qualifications of the driver. We're not.
Right.
Yes.
It's not my obligation to ensure that their drivers are licensed. That is their liability, not ours.
Okay. All right,
And whoever the drivers are, when they're driving for the school, they will be school employees, not town employees.
all right. If it benefits the child in the school, I'm all for it.
Right.
It's a lot different from the original number that they were talking about outsourcing this, though. I will let everyone know that.
I mean, it is crazy expensive. For instance, I think they were looking at a $1,600 expense to transport one child to a field trip.
All right. All those in favor or further discussion? We all done? All those in favor? Aye. Adrian?
Aye.
All right, 3-0. All right, so I'm sorry that Paul is not here, but we're gonna keep moving. So the contract with Nathan Jacobson. Nathan was the town engineer.
Yep, so the goal is to hire Nathan Jacobson to be the town engineer. The town's attorney reviewed this. You've seen previous versions of this. The only real sticking point between the town and the engineering firm has been just how do we deal with since it's a longer term contract, how do we deal with cost escalation year to year? So that is under the section entitled fee schedule. And just saying from now on, the fee schedules have to be agreed to by both the town and the company. And that if they ever exceed a 3% increase per annum, there has to be a written agreement to that before that can go into effect.
And Eric get comfortable with the contract?
Yep,
Okay.
it should be. I wrote it.
That's fine. I'll make a motion to approve the contract with a Nathan L. Jacobson LLC for engineering services.
I'll second that.
Okay, further discussion. Adrian, you got any problems with that contract?
I do not.
Paula, how are you? Good to see you back. Do you have any problems with that contract with Nathan Jacobson? Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Eric, how much would you estimate the engineering is gonna cost on the Hudson Road? Do you have an idea?
I don't. I think we're looking at a total project cost in the $250,000 range. I think by the time we're all done, I could see the engineering portion of that being $50K, including the application for the state local state local bridge program application, because that's a pretty involved thing. I'm not saying that the town's, which would imply that the town's actual cost for the engineering would be 25,000, but because we should get half of that back from the state, but it will be fairly considerable.
Wow.
Well, that goes into, Eric, what I asked you is to provide a complete estimate of all costs related to culverts moving forward and what we're gonna have to do over the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with asking Eric to do that though is A, it takes a ridiculous amount of time. But B, the costs changed and as both state reimbursement is either there or not there and materials go up and down. I mean, we know we've got a big number, you know.
And just come up with a number. That's what I was asking for. I wasn't asking for details that you're gonna come down to a finite number and do each individual one, but you gotta know that if the Missoula Road unit is gonna cost, or culvert's gonna cost $1 million to do, and then you got another 8 to do, you can sit there and identify, okay, that one should cost
But
800.
are you, I guess, are you asking him to identify the top, you know, the 10 most expensive or because otherwise, I mean, we have quite a few.
I don't know.
In terms of the big culverts that we're gonna need engineer work and that are in the category that are either failed, you know, or poor and are likely to fail in the future, you know, in the time span that we're thinking of, you know, we're looking at least 3 million all up for the culverts that we're looking at. That
In the
would be my guess.
in the next 10 years.
Yeah,
And so, so because Eric has done an extremely good job applying for the state and federal funding on the bridges, we are going to save, you know, $1.2 million or, you know, thereabouts in total costs for the town. All of those dollars really need to be poured into the culverts, and, you know, because it's going to be the biggest problem the town has over the next 15 years are all those culverts. And I'm not just talking about what you just referenced, Eric, are the ones that are going to be outsourced. Well, what about the ones that you're going to ask Public Works to do work on? You know,
I mean, those basically just get funded out of the regular public works budget.
And
Yeah.
what size are we talking about that our DPW can handle?
My take on it is about 30 inches and below. There's no question that we're gonna have Public Works do it. But part of the deciding factor is not necessarily the size of the culvert, but where it is going to fall in terms of the permitting process. You know, culverts can either be permitted locally, or they can be permitted at the DEP level, or they can be permitted at the Army Corps of Engineer level.
It depends on the watershed.
It depends on the area of watershed. So like, I'll give you an example. We replaced a 24-inch culvert. Actually, you know what? Let me not talk about that in public.
Okay. I already know, I saw that.
Okay, so where I guess where are we going with this, Jeff? This isn't budget season, so why are we discussing this?
no, well, we were discussing it because Eric and I were having a conversation about the bridges and about the TRIP program and the lot SIP program.
Yep.
And the issue to me is the community needs to be made aware of the potential ramifications of all these failing culverts and what's going to come down the road. And we need to put out a number and say it's going to be this. And so next budget season, we're going to sit there and put $300,000 into a culvert fund. But we need to know the number. And at least I do. I mean,
I guess for reference, we did do that last budget season already. And we did talk about those big numbers and it was in Eric's report.
But we were going to ignore it because we had bridges to do. Now we don't have bridges to do. So now that comes to the forefront.
I don't think anybody ever said ignore it. I think, you know, we did some shifting around given the state of the economy last year, but I think we've always said we know we need to fund between $200,000 and $300,000 a year into the culvert fund.
Good. I'm all for it. I just think that everybody needs to be made aware of it. And there should be a list of all those.
Yeah, I mean, this brings up the conversation that we need to have anyways, is Eric's going into budgeting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I was hoping to do is sit down at the December meeting and carve out a bunch of time to start talking about what I consider the bigger priorities and what are the biggest things that are going to be driving the changes in the budget. Obviously, the first and one of the biggest changes we're going to have coming down the pike is our fuel costs are going to be probably dramatically higher next year than this year. Remember, we as a town are locked in at, around $2.25 a gallon for diesel and for home heating oil, which is great. But if I were to lock in now, I'd be locking in at $5.50 or $6 a gallon. So we're looking at more than doubling our overall energy costs next year, which is going to be, difficult to absorb.
Well, how much was it? What's our budget right now for diesel?
Collectively, between the town and the school, we run around, I think, around 14,000 gallons a year total. Something like that.
So you're gonna go from 35,000 to 95,000 potentially,
Yep,
or 75.
We got that done quick, Jeff.
right. And the school is going to be the biggest because the schools, remember the school's heating oil budget, is last year they used roughly 40,000 gallons of heating oil. So the difference between home heating oil at $2.25 and $5.50, that's again a $40,000 to $50,000 increase.
Yeah,
So-
that's not our purview. Let's stuck to our purview.
Right. But so what I would like to do is have a discussion at the next meeting about what I think the big factors are that are going to influence the budget, and where we need to go with that.
So back to our culverts and our large infrastructure projects.
I thought we just agreed we're talking at the next meeting. Eric's going to present that.
I know, and I'm just asking Eric, the more information you provide, the better off we'll all be. All right, the memorandum of understanding with the Andover Fire Commission.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen again here for a second.
Mhm.
Assuming I get the right one. Okay, so you should hopefully see a document in front of you now. Myself and the town's attorney sat down today with 3 members of the fire commission, the fire chief, and the president of the Andover Volunteer Fire Department, Inc. And so what we have is 2 things. The first is a simple memorandum of understanding between the town and the fire commission that just revolves around the capital assets and how they are dealt with. So this version has been verbally agreed to by all parties other than the Board of Selectmen. But it's got to be re-reviewed by the Board of Fire Commissioners now that it's actually down fully on paper. So this is the copy at this point. And then the second thing is we are going to need to work out some method, either a contract or a town ordinance that accurately lays out the responsibilities of the 3 entities, which is the town, the fire commission, and the Andover Volunteer Fire Department, Inc. So that it's clear, because our documentation is very unclear. The original agreement was signed 85 years ago. There is nothing in the charter that even mentions the Andover Volunteer Fire Department. So there are a couple areas in the ordinance book where it talks about the organization, but not as it's actually, not as it officially is. So we got a bit of cleanup that we have to do. But we're not going to get that in time for this season and to get the capital, assets in the capital asset list back to the treasurer. So what I want to do is sign a simple memorandum of understanding between us and the fire commission saying, hey, you got to provide us the capital assets. And I already sent to the board many months ago, like June-ish, a copy of a capital asset policy that I sent to you and I sent it to the Board of Finance. And so we need to put this MOU into effect and we need to put the policy into effect. And then we need to get the information. And then in the background, we need to work on the actual document, the governing document in relationship between those three entities. Because it's very unclear now. And, you know, to me, that's something that's problematic. And Dennis can, if you've got questions for Dennis, he can probably answer them for you.
Yeah, I'm favorably disposed towards an ordinance because the charter does mention the fire commission, but only to the extent that, you know, how they're chosen, and also that one of their members serves on the CIP. And as Eric pointed out, the background information that, and I've read through a lot of stuff. We've all read through a lot of stuff, and we all being just me and Eric, and of course the members, the other people that were there at the meeting today, the information is very sketchy. There's not much legal basis for any of this, and we really need to firm this up. I think this agreement is a big step in the right direction, especially in terms of satisfying the auditors who pointed out that we needed to, you know, account for our town property that is being used to fight fires here in town. So I think the next step is to do what Eric suggested, either through an ordinance or an agreement. I would prefer an ordinance. I think it's would be a good idea to flesh out what's in the charter and what's in the historical documents.
But for the ordinance, is that going to address contracting the Andover Fire Department entity who's actually doing the work versus the fire commission who's overseeing the work?
Yes.
We can do that. You can do that in an
Adrian.
ordinance.
Adrian, were you a part of this meeting?
I was not. I was discussion of it, you know, part of the discussion the other day with Wally.
Right, I remember the discussion we had, but this was brought on by the auditor, wasn't it, correctly?
Yes, it was an audit finding that we did not have any kind of documentation or memorandum of understanding between the town and the fire department.
Going forward, is the auditor going to be all right with the Andover Fire Department not having to disclose any of their financials?
Well, that's a different conversation, I think. But
So this memorandum of understanding, which is an adjustment from what was in our package, was what was agreed to today.
yeah, but this is about the equipment specifically. This has nothing to do with financials.
No, I understand. I'm just.
Yep.
This is a different memorandum of understanding of what I read earlier. So.
Correct.
Yes.
I mean, I read it on the screen. I don't really have a problem with it. And Eric, what you're saying is this is going to satisfy the auditor's initial issues.
Correct.
Okay.
It should.
All right. And Dennis, you have no problems with this document?
I involved in its preparation and its revision and the meeting today. No, I like it a lot. I think it's a big step in the right direction, but we do need to firm up our relationship with fire commission and the fire department, and perhaps an ordinance will do it. Perhaps we need a contract as well.
Okay. Anybody have any
with the fire department?
Anybody have any problems with this memorandum of understanding?
No, I think this one's great. Do we want to have Dennis start working on an ordinance?
Yeah, let's get this passed. So, Scott, you have any problems with it?
Well, I just had that one question.
Yeah, it's not addressed by this at all, unfortunately.
Not addressed. So that's step 2 or step 3 or step 4, where we'll get to.
That's in the future.
Yeah, we have to get there.
So, but what financials?
It's not worth discussing right now. I mean, basically, basically what what Scott is saying is that right now the town, I mean, I'll be really honest, the town puts money into the fire department, which is, we need to, they do a great job. The fire department and one of the entities collects fees for ambulance services, and there's no transparency in that back to the town. So
That's right.
it's something that has to be addressed. It's not, the chief knows about it, the commission knows about it, the town, the board of selectmen knows about it. No one's wanted to address it in the past because there's always been fear of an adversarial relationship. But there shouldn't be, but if we're going to ask everybody to be transparent, we got to ask the fire department to be transparent as well. So
I think, Jeff, that everybody around the table today seemed to agree that that was a good next step,
yeah, so
and
let's
include
get this-
Chief Ron Mike.
let's get this signed and we'll move to the next step. And hopefully,
Yeah, I plan on moving to that next step, working with Eric again, of course, very soon. I think that should be done soon.
Great. All right.
right. So somebody want to make a motion to get this passed?
I make a motion that we accept the memorandum of understanding as presented by Eric this evening.
Second that.
All right, further discussion? Paul, I can't see you. Are you all good with this, Paul?
You know what? I apologize. Can I just amend that?
Sure.
That we accept the memorandum of understanding between the fire commission and the town. I apologize. I didn't mention what we were accepting, so Eric's going to yell at us for an improper motion otherwise.
Okay. All right, Paula is still having problems, so it's just three of us. So
Yep, I'm dialed in. So
Oh, you're
you probably,
dialed in?
you can't see me, but I'm listening through the phone.
okay,
Like
so
the ghost of the Board of Selectmen.
that means Paula hasn't been able to see the new one. So Paula, we're going to vote on this. So it is the town attorney is in favor, the town administrator in favor, and it appears to be a reasonable MOU. So all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All right. Let's move on to new business.
Excuse me, Jeff.
Yeah.
At one point, did I miss something, or did you guys actually vote on the Jacobson contract? I wasn't sure that you did.
Aaron?
I don't believe we did.
Okay, I didn't think so. I thought I might have missed it, but pretty
Alright.
sure I didn't hear a vote.
I thought he did, but
I
I
thought
could
we
be
did.
wrong.
Well, let's vote again. So,
I could be wrong too.
well, listen, I can't tell you. Adrian, can you tell me? Paul was probably on and off. Scott, I mean, I thought we did, but let's vote again.
We've been beating too many horses tonight, so I don't remember.
Yes, so let's, so I make a motion, and I know we did because I know Paula, I think I made Paula second. Paula seconded it because I remember saying Nathan L. Jacobson. But we'll vote on
What was the vote count, Eric? Were you keeping track?
No, that was the.
this
I
four.
think that was the AES, the Andover Elementary School contract with the for the kid that needs a ride.
No,
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
let's
I'm
just.
not even.
let's just-
I'm
so
going.
I'm gonna make a motion that I know it was done, but we're gonna do it again because we're all off and we can't rewind the tape. Throw a flag and, so I'm going to make a motion that we accept the Nathan L. Jacobson contract for engineering services.
Second that.
Scott seconds that. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All right, so we voted again 4-0. And I know when Eric rewinds the tape, he'll sit there and get that. But Dennis, thank you.
Hopefully.
I
you
want to
voted
know.
for
I want to know,
4-0
Eric. You
both
let me know.
times.
I know we didn't have any dissenting votes on it, so we're good. So so there was
That's in 9. You put something in 9.
yeah, new business. Yeah.
No, I can help with this. Contract with Dennis O'Brien to reappoint as town attorney before he changes his mind or increases his fees. I would motion that we accept that agreement.
Second.
There's a problem with the contract, though.
There is.
The number, What was the number, Eric? 9750 or something?
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
9,500.
Right, and where it's written, Jeff, it doesn't say the same thing as it's written. I think it says 93 and it's written as 9750 or something.
Yeah, it says a retainer of 9,000.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Whoa,
Good catch.
Big
Good
error.
catch.
Go Scott.
bad town
Oh,
administrator and town attorney.
Dennis, don't sign that thing
I
until they
messed up.
fix it.
Good
All
catch,
right.
Scott.
So as amended by Scott Person.
So
Good catch.
$9,500 for the town attorney. All right, who seconded that?
I did.
Paula did. All right. We had further discussion. Scott, thank you for that catch. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So 4-0 on that. Dennis, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
9C,
Eric.
9C, the town administrator's contract, we're moving that to executive session. 9D, Region 8 Health and Medical Insurance. Eric?
Okay, so the Region 8 Medical Insurance Consortium Agreement and bylaws were last updated in 2017. So that group has been working diligently to update it. You have the update here. I believe you are the last entity between the towns and the boards of education that has to ratify this. So you have the language in a red line form to read and agree to. Dennis has reviewed it and agreed that it's okay by form, but he denies any and all knowledge of the particulars of the contract, just says that it's well written. And to be perfectly honest, I have not been going to the RAM District 8 Consortium meetings. The finance office, when we had full-time employees there, one of them was going to it, but I have not been going to it. But I do know we have to pass this thing. Here is the verbiage for it.
I should say that I did have lots of input in the first the last version of this contract. I'm not sure if it was the first, when Bob Burbank was first selectman. I went over it really carefully and knew a heck of a lot more about it then than I do now, because there's quite a few changes in it. The thing is, in most situations when attorneys review contracts, they just okay them as the form, because it's not my role to decide whether the amounts stated in there are correct. That's up to you, or anything else like that. But this is a fairly complex agreement, but it seems to all add up in terms of dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's, and it makes sense and it seems rational. But as far as the figures go, I can't vouch for those. So I wrote Eric an email saying that I could only approve it as the form. And that's often what the state attorney general will do with state contracts. You see they come back approved only as the form. So that's my 2 cents.
And Eric, do you know at all if they've talked about any reimbursement to us based upon claim history?
You mean reimbursement to either the town or the school?
Yeah.
Don't we get something back every year?
No, we don't, but they did based on the amount of money, last year's claim history, and the amount they had set aside in the self-insurance pool.
Right.
They decreased our costs this year. If you notice, our healthcare costs went down around 8% this year compared to the year before.
Yeah, that's their version. That's their version of a give back, is they give you a credit towards the next year, to credit for everybody towards the next year.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions related to the program? To the contract?
And if any Board of Selectmen member wants to be the town's representative on the RAM Consortium Board, I would be more than happy to have you all appoint that person.
It would be great if we could find somebody that's has insurance background. So if anybody finds anybody like that, we should ask them to be on that board. Okay. Are we going to approve the contract? Somebody make a motion for it? All right, I will make a motion then. Make a motion as soon as I can get to the title of the. Article 7, that's a long contract. Oops, I went too far. I make a motion that we accept the Regional School District 8 Health and Medical Insurance Consortium Agreement and bylaws.
Second.
All right, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Jeff,
Last
who,
question.
what was that
Jeff,
commission again? What was the
Do you
commission
want to
called?
sign this, or do you want, are you considering me the duly authorized person to sign this?
Dennis, who has the authority? I'll sign it. Eric, I'll be in to sign. When do you need it by? I'll be in tomorrow. I'll be in Thursday.
Okay, perfect.
All right. All right, 9E is a discussion related to zoning changes related to the town property on School Road. And Eric has put forth a request to the Planning and Zoning Committee related to the property on School Road. So Eric, if you can inform all the members of the board what's going on, and then we go on.
Sure. So in terms of building the community center, one of the things I did, because I knew we were going to submit to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And by the way, we have 2 submissions, now 3 we have to do to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I realized that municipal buildings aren't actually a permitted use in the Andover Rural Design District, which is what the this property that we're at now is in. Even though, you know, we built plenty of municipal buildings in the district, it's not actually a permitted use. So I sat down with the chair of the zoning commission. I referred it to the town's zoning attorney, Mark Brantz. I gave him a preliminary, very simple zone change to accommodate that. And Mark came back to me with another series of changes that really, in definitions that really needed to be put in place to make that happen. So it will be before the zoning commission at their next meeting. The chairman and I have worked out the language for it. So, you know, it is going to be about a 2-month process because we have to provide notice to CROG and the adjacent communities anytime we do a zoning change. So we will do that process as soon as we have approval at the next meeting to proceed. So that's one item. The second thing in discussions with it, we've had some questions about where the actual property boundaries are and what is considered town property and what is considered school property, and some jurisdictional issues. So one of the things we're planning on doing is to produce an A2 boundary survey for the properties involved, so we can accurately locate within the properties any potential building site, and hopefully satisfy some concerns. My initial approach with the zoning commission had been to just say to the zoning commission, we're basically going to combine the 3 properties or 4 properties that abut each other. and get away from any issues with being within side or front yard setback. But because one of them is potentially under the school's authority, the planning and zoning chair did not feel that was appropriate to just go after, and probably not legal to just go combine the properties. So we're going to be stuck surveying that. We're working to expedite that and get that done as soon as possible, so it doesn't really impinge on the timeline of the project. When I have more on that, I'll let you know. And probably next month, I will file with the Planning and Zoning Commission a 824 statutory referral on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, presuming that you agree for building a community center at that location. And there's no question that there's plenty of documents in our current plan of conservation and development to support that 824. As many of you know, an 824 statutory approval is a state requirement that anytime you do a significant municipal improvement, you have to ask the Planning and Zoning Commission whether it's consistent with the plan of conservation and development.
When we
So-
designed Billy Bars, we wanted to make it super.
So unless you guys have any objection, it's my intention to request that next month, which would mean probably January or so, they would rule on that also. Again, because that's going to take less time than the rezoning. The rezoning was the priority thing that I filed with them as soon as I could.
Are you gonna use the same survey people that did the 12 center?
Yeah, presumably.
They,
And because they've already done most of the topography, and they've surveyed a lot of that property anyway, it should be faster and cheaper to use BSC than any other, than to switch surveyors now.
BCS take on it was that we would do a 200 level survey and a 40 level survey to basically we'll get the details where we need them in the center areas, and the outside stuff just kind of fill in where the major markers are. I think the biggest problem with all of this is that everyone kind of thought there was a survey there, and unfortunately there wasn't. What we had in-house came from the commission back in the 90s, and although it was signed and stamped by everybody, none of them were engineers. So,
Yeah, that was a compilation survey. It was not an A2 survey. I spent a bunch of time today with Carol researching, because I was trying to figure out why the property that the school parcel was on, the survey map for that was filed like 3 years after the school was already in business. And apparently what happened is Percy Cook donated the land to the school. And then they built the school. And then for some reason, either he or the town wanted to reconfigure the property. So they basically undonated it to the town. They reversed the original donation to the town and refiled a new map and a new donation for a bigger piece of land to the school. And then later than that, in 1965, he donated the land to the Andover Town Hall that the town hall is, and the extra piece behind the town hall. So those were all donations from Percy Cook.
All right, so do you need us to do anything from an approval standpoint to move this along?
I don't think so at this point. I mean, it's my intention to use, BSC. Because they were originally given the contract for the site work and civil engineering. It would just be an addendum on the previous contract with them.
Okay.
Is how I would consider it at this point.
For clarification though, we wanted to, for the funding for this, we didn't want to take all of it out of the community center because honestly, the town should have already had surveys on all of this and never did. So.
are you going to delineate the town hall to the school at some point?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're gonna have to.
so it's not just town hall to school, it's also fire department as well. Like none of that was delineated correctly. So. And by state statute, we should have had, and we don't, and this is the other issue. The fire department should have a right of way across the property to get to their use of the septic, and so should the school. And none of that's in place on any of the, because it's shared usage. There should have been right of ways or easements on each of the land parcel deeds, and there are not. So that also has to be addressed. And that was, again, something that was missed when all this was done. Back when the community center was built, back when the fire department was built. So definitely
Alright.
we're cleaning up a lot of old stuff.
So just like everything else, this board is going to attempt to sit there and clean up an old mess. So
Yeah.
let's get to it. Eric, do you need us to do anything else to get this moving?
I don't think so. I still don't have a firm contract from BSC or BCS, sorry. When I do, my intention is to sign it and get it.
Okay.
And the dog agrees.
Sorry.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that information. We'll move on now to 10A, and its approval of the Tuesday, October 11th, 2022 regular minute meetings. Somebody make a motion to approve those.
I'll second that.
I didn't make a motion. I wasn't there.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for Tuesday, October 11th, 2022, regular meeting minutes.
Now, Scott.
We'll second.
Well, Adrian is off chasing the dog, so all those in favor?
Aye.
So Scott and Paul are in favor. I will abstain since I wasn't at that meeting. Adrian, do you want to approve the minutes? 301. Okay. Item 11, the finance report, revenue summary, town budget summary, the town aid road update, the town cash report, and over expenditure report.
Okay, so what you have in your packet is you have first the expenditure report. If you have questions on that, I'm happy to answer that. And then for the revenue report, because we don't actually have it in Edmonds, I gave you 2 bits of information. The first bit of information was every bit of income we've gotten from the state of Connecticut, including payment in lieu of taxes, municipal stabilization, ECS, and the next 2 down were the payments for the incentive, or not the incentive, the housing study grant that we got for the town. And then municipal revenue sharing account, the money in from the tranche, and the money in from town aid road. So at least you can see what income is flowing into the town from the state. And then the second part of that is, and sorry, it's a little out of order, is the report from the tax collector. And between those two, that represents like 99% of the income the town gets. There is a little bit more that flows in from the town clerk's office, through transfer station permits and other, but that's the vast majority of it. So at least I gave you most of the information, if not in a beautifully collated form. And then we also listed the check register for the last full month, which was October. So that is listed there for you to review. Questions on that?
So basically, I don't think we have the tax collector's information, at least in the package that I'm looking at. but it doesn't matter. We gotta
It
get,
should be page 80 of the report.
okay.
There's the October 22 deposits.
Okay, so if I'm looking at check register, there were 71 checks cut in October, plus a potential for 2 payroll cycles to have been transacted during that same period of time.
Yep, sounds about right.
Okay. All right. Any other questions related to that information? Let's move down to the budget, item 12. I don't believe there's anything in there. Any appropriation transfers or over expenditure requests, nothing.
No, there's nothing at this point.
Okay, the tax collector's report was collected 1.798413 total dollars, so $1,798,413.13 in October.
Yep, and if you look at the next sheet that shows you for real estate, personal property and motor vehicles, the fraction that's been collected, and the fraction that's uncollected for all three of them.
So in essence, we have about 360,000 dollars of uncollected taxes going back pre-2020. Are we planning on doing any? Are we doing any collections on those? We doing any tax sales? Anything?
So what we've done is the motor vehicles usually kind of takes care of itself, because the majority of those we get in within a couple of years, because everybody needs to renew their license and everybody needs to renew their registration. So the only ones we miss out on are the ones we move out of state that we can't track down. The really old ones of those we had sent to our collection agency, who's gotten some of them. The rest at this point are ones they probably can't track down. We also sent basically all the personal property declarations that haven't been paid to the collection agency. So we've gotten a bunch of them back recently, made a few people unhappy, but that's okay. Those are ones where there's no effective process to lien to get the money back. And because people can, once they, if they own a corporation or an LLC or have it doing business as, and they get rid of it, it's almost impossible to get your money back later. So we're always going to have problems collecting those. And as far as the houses, there's, tax liens on all of them that are unpaid. I don't.
Are we
think
going to have any
said-
tax sales, Eric?
I am not anticipating any. If you want, we certainly could.
Well, there's $158,000 of old real estate taxes pre-2020 or 2020 and back. So we should find out about that.
You want to send everything pre-2020?
No. I'm just telling you, just let us know what the tax collector tells us about that $158,000, to sit there and see what the best way is to collect it, as opposed to waiting for them to sell their property and collect it because we have a lien on it.
Well, let me put one thing in your ear though.
Mhm.
For all that back money that we eventually get when the property's sold, we're getting 18% per year interest on.
Yeah, so
So-
why would you send them to a tax sale?
Well, that's the reason why we haven't done it in a while, because when we do eventually get that money, a lot of times we get a snot load of money in fees.
Yep.
So it's actually not a bad thing to have some of that on the books.
Depends upon when you want your money.
Well,
So
we used to
The
have
only
tax
problem
sales.
is- The only problem is there's a statute of limitations on the, but I think it's 15 years So you have to collect within 15 years. Do you have a contract with Adam Cohen,
No,
the
Yeah.
attorney?
That's who did the last
You do.
one, Jeff.
no, I
Adam
know, but we
Cohen.
don't have a contract with him to keep doing it and doing
But
it.
but you, as a matter of course, you use him.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, he's great. He does a great job. I've worked with him a lot, and tax sales are definitely the way to go.
Okay. So just Eric, I mean, just sit there and keep us updated on the next go around to sit there and see what the tax collector would like to do to, it's better to have the money than not.
Right,
So-
but Dennis, you talk about 15 years. Like if you look at 2013, and back, it's basically wiped out at this point. So, most of the stuff that's going back only really goes back to 2014, which is well
Yeah,
under the 15-year limit.
Oh yeah, I mean you're probably all set with regard to that, and I agree with you. The interest rate is high, very high, and it's an incentive for people to pay actually if they can.
Okay, so let's
Pri-
move
Prior
on.
to COVID, we used to do those once a year though, right?
Yeah, but I think Eric's point is it's not cost effective for the town to do it. In some cases, there are extenuating circumstances. So running them every year is,
I don't think the town ever paid money for those. Just letting you know. I mean, those where you sell the tax lien. If they don't pay the tax lien, you got the property.
Right, but I guess my point is that, say you go back and look at 2016, I mean, we still owe $3,600 out of roughly, what, 12 million? The year before, we own $1,200 out of, the same thing, 11, 12 million. So our collection rate overall is still pretty good, at least from my perspective.
I just want it to be 100%.
yeah, but Eric's point is letting it not be 100% nets us more money. So let it be. We're making you more money, Jeff. Maybe the town will donate some curtains to you when you retire.
Could be. So, all right. So you're gonna just keep getting us information on that, Eric, from the tax collector. See.
Yep.
So there are department reports, base state collections, the assessors report, the fire department. I don't.
Hold on, before we move on, there are 3 refunds of excess tax payments this month, the 49.47 one to Linda Armstrong, Patricia Grimaldi for $26.96, and to Enterprise for $176.72.
Somebody want to make a motion to accept, to pay those back? Okay, I'll make a motion to refund the excess tax payments to the listed residents or
Seconded.
listed taxpayers. Seconded by Adrian. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Department reports. Anybody have any questions on the department reports? Okay. All right. Eric, any correspondence?
No, nothing major.
Okay.
The only other thing I was gonna say is we probably will do an RFP in the next month or so for the Planning and Zoning Commission. Because as you recall, the next plan of conservation and development is due in about 2 years. And so given that the normal cycle for doing that is at least 12 to 15 months, we want to get that RFP out there now. That will be expending money that the town has been banking every year for the last 8 years, specifically for the plan of conservation and development. So that'll be neutral on the budget because we've been putting money in that permanent fund every year.
Okay. Okay. I don't have any questions on those reports right now. Let's move on to our public speak. Oh. So the only one left is Mark Brinker.
Nothing for me, Jeff. I'm good, thanks.
Okay.
So I'm sure you're glad to hear.
Well, thank you, Mark, for staying all the way. So now we're gonna, somebody want to make a motion, move to executive session and speak about Eric's contract, and let's include Dennis in this just because he's gonna write the contract, I assume.
I make a motion to enter executive session and invite the town attorney and Eric Anderson.
Who wants to second that?
I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
right,